Well, great day, everyone, and welcome to Spirit in Mind, where we are committed to discussing current events with theological and mental health perspectives. I'm Bishop Guy Robinson. I am honored to be with you today, and I'm always blessed, and we are blessed to have Dr. Shepherd with us. Good morning, Dr. Shepherd.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Bishop, and now afternoon. How are you doing today?
All is well. All is well. It's good to see you on location with us
Yeah,
today.
outside location today, but would not miss this time of impartation and sharing for anything. And so, welcome to all those who are out there utilizing a different device today. So, not able to see all the different listeners and the comments like I normally would. But thank you for all those who are out there watching us today. And please share and let somebody know that we're on the air. We want to also make sure that you go to our vidflex.tv to our screen. Well, the screen is there, but to the actual platform where you can go and look at all of our past episodes on the broadcast, spiritinmind.vidflex.tv. And please go there, check us out. And we're in the midst of a wonderful series right now, and you can get caught up on all of those episodes that you have missed.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are so grateful for you, our Spirit and Mind family. Please feel free to share this time of sharing. And please let someone know that we're on. And we look forward to the dialogue and the engagement. It's all part of the Spirit and Mind experience. And you are a vital part of that experience. Of course, we're grateful to have Dr. Shepherd for many reasons. One of them being is that he gives us updates on medical affairs, particularly significant in this season while the pandemic is going on. And Dr. Shepherd, I got a question. Maybe some people may want to know. We're hearing so many different things are happening, and of course, the state of Texas, the governor there has made some decisions, and the state of Mississippi, I believe, has made some decisions, and then there's other conversation going on around that. And so where are we? What should we know? And what should we do?
Yes, sir. So I purposely kept these masks on, not just for decoration, but it's part of my spiel to the people today because this is not the time to stop wearing masks. And when you're wearing masks, just like I have, we should be double masking. All right. I was just with my physician just today. I'm sorry, just this past week. And we were just talking about it. And he noticed that I was double masking. So I have the blue 3-ply mask, and then I have my regular black mask. And as you see, I am touting the Church of God in Christ mask today, as I have off-site at a church, at my church, the Carter Memorial Church of God in Christ. And so why is it important for you to double mask? Because it actually cuts down the accessibility for the virus to enter into the entry points into your space, which is through your nose or through your mouth. And so, really, when you double mask, as you've seen Mayor Brandon Scott, as you've seen other people who are local and government, local and state officials have been double masking. That's an example of what we should be doing. In regards to what Texas and Mississippi has done or plans to do, let me tell you, all health officials are in concert that this is too early to lift the mask mandate. You might say, well, why is that, Dr. Shepard? Well, that's because just like the flu virus or just like the common cold, that the virus still can be transmitted even though you've been vaccinated. We have to understand that the COVID-19 virus or the coronavirus or the SARS-CoV-2, the scientific term for it, is not going anywhere unless the Lord himself decides to eradicate this virus. Well, how do you know that, Dr. Shepard? Well, let me tell you all. Coronaviruses were here before many of you all were even born. So it was here before most of us were even born, if not all of us. It's just that this particular form of coronavirus has taken off to the point to where it has become very lethal, more lethal than the 100 times more lethal than the flu virus. And so that's why for those who've been vaccinated carry the virus. So that's why we still have to wear the mask until we reach a level, and you've probably heard the term herd immunity, to where it's more safer for us not to wear the mask. We're nowhere near that right now, because people are still battling in their minds whether or not to take the vaccine. And then there's a whole thing now about brand hesitation. What do I mean by brand hesitation? Well, I don't want the Johnson Johnson because it's not 95% like the Moderna or the Pfizer. All right, people, we want to make sure that you know that it's not about brand name right now. It's not about clothes. It's not about, different other places, where we look at the brand name to decide whether or not do we get something. It doesn't work like that with vaccines. The reason why we have different brand names is because everybody wants a share of the pie because it's going to be profitable to them. I'm not talking about profits, but I'm looking at it for profitable for us to end this pandemic. And so everyone wants a share of that piece of the pie. And so right now, and you've heard the other health officials state that it doesn't matter which vaccine you get, they all prevent deaths and hospitalizations. That's what we want. And so a little extended answer there to the question, Bishop Robinson, but we have to know that just because someone lifts a mandate doesn't mean that you have to follow it. All right. Many of the corporations, Target, Best Buy, a few others I've seen, they don't plan to lift. Starbucks, I believe, is another one. They don't plan to lift those mask mandates in the state of Texas. So, and you've heard me say on here, and I will conclude with this, just because the federal government does something or the state government does something, you have to remember the most important people who really affect you are your local governmental officials. And so never get so caught up with the federal elections and things like that that you don't know who your local government officials are, because those are the people who have to enact what comes down from the federal government. And if they choose not to do so, many of them are well within their rights. And so that's why some of these corporations are still going to allow for certain mandates, because yes, the governor can say that, but if the mayor doesn't agree with it, or even some of the county folks don't agree with it, just like we hear in the state of Maryland, it just won't fly. So just know what you should know and abide by what you believe is the best practices for your area.
Very, very helpful, Dr. Shepherd. Thank you for sharing that with our Spirit in Mind family today. South Carolina as well has made that decision with Texas and Mississippi as well. And so what you are saying is so powerful for us to be mindful of what we do and the choices that we make. That's so very helpful, and a part of living our best lives. Which is what we're talking about, living our best lives. And we've been talking about it from an acrostic. And Dr. Shepherd, we gave us the sip and see. You want to catch them up on that, Dr. Shepherd, on the sip and see approach?
Absolutely. So living your best life, which we all want to do, I believe. And so we want that for you. And this is our series that we have been on for, I think, about the last 7 weeks now. I believe this is part 7. And so the acrostic, or the acronym, is SIP and C: spiritually, intellectually, physically, socially, economically, and emotionally. God wants us to live our best life in all 6 of those areas. And please note that those 6 areas are all equally important. One does not outrank the other one. God wants us whole. And so many of us, we strive for perfection, as the scripture says. And so we want to make sure that we're not just strong in one area and then all the rest of the 5 areas are lacking. That's not how God wants us to live. He's not pleased with that. And so we are striving so that we can be complete and perfect in all 6 areas, because that's when we live the abundant life. And so we've covered 4 of those areas. And today we're going to start another new area, the economical piece. And so that's where we are, living your best life economically. And thank you, Lord, for those hundreds. They must be coming our
Yes, sir. And listen, so we just give us some a launching pad here, and then Dr. Shepard's going to introduce our very, very capable and competent guest. But as a launching pad, let's start off with what is that economics? Well, when we're talking about economics, just a couple of working definitions. But economics refers to the study of the production, distribution, and consumption of wealth in human society. It can also be defined, because there are multiple definitions, as the study of people as consumers, making choices about which products and goods and services, for that matter, to buy or to use. It can also be defined as a social science concerned with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. They're all dictionary definitions, but simply put, we're going to talk about how we spend our money, where we spend it, where we save it, what we do with it, and why we do with it, what we do with it. And I want to start with a passage of scripture just to launch us off with a spiritual foundation that is in Luke 15. It's not preaching. Please don't say it's going to be quick. I just want to read it and use it as a launching pad. Luke 15 says it's the story of the prodigal son. It's really the third story of a series of parables that Jesus gives about resources, really, and how they're used. He starts talking about the shepherd or sheep, and then he talks about a lost coin. And then he said, a certain man had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. So he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose a famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Just as a launching pad, there's several kinds of presuppositions there that the prodigal son has. Number one, he has made, the assumption that I am entitled to an inheritance. Number one, he said, give me what belongs to me. So there's the presupposition that I am entitled to an inheritance. Whatever you may think of that, he clearly does have that presupposition. Number two, money is a means to satisfy immediate gratification, because he spent all he had on everything he wanted with no savings for the time of famine. Number three, more money means more will come. Clearly, I thought about that, Dr. Shepard. He watched his resources dwindle as he kept gratifying things and never said, wow, never any indication that, wow, I'm almost at my last. I'm almost out of here. Man, I need to start saving. Man, I need to start changing the way I'm doing things. I don't have as much today as I did 2 weeks ago. But he just let that, but if it easily came to him, perhaps he thought it would easily come again. And then he came to himself. And when he came to himself, his mindset about resources changed. He said, I could be a servant. First, he said, I'm not worthy, which means I no longer feel entitled to automatically receiving a livelihood. Number two, he said, I can go and be a servant, which means I now understand that my livelihood is something that can be worked for. Number three, he said, I can live better than this, as bad as this is. And for me, that just kind of summarizes what we hope to talk about today. The money management, the stewardship of money, the psychology of money, because it affects certain behaviors, the way we think. Our financial behaviors are the results of certain presuppositions we may have that may come from family, friends, or influences in society. And then thirdly, where we've started, the theology of money. And they're the three things that we want to talk about. What does God have to say about money? What is the stewardship of money? What's the theology of money? And what is the psychology of money? And we have a great guest with us, Dr. Shepard. Would you take us from here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a guest that's with us who's known me all my life. and I would not be here if it was not for him. And so this person is, of course, my father. And I am grateful that he accepted the invitation to be with us today. And so I'm just going to introduce him, and he'll tell us a little bit about what he does, his profession, and then we'll take it further from there. So, Spirit of Mind, we are blessed to have my father, the elder. He is an elder in the church, Josephus Shepherd, CPA. How you doing, Dad?
Good, and thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for the opportunity, Bishop Robinson. I look forward to talking to God's people concerning money. I'm a licensed CPA. I've taught accounting at a university level. I now am somewhat semi-retired, and I do tax returns and also do financial statements for churches and non-for-profits. I'm very thankful for this particular time to talk to the people of God concerning economics and money.
Great, great, great. So in the Kojic world, Bishop, we call him the fixer. All right, because
Yeah.
people come to him at all different levels who are in need of fixing. So actually, I'm going to kind of just piggyback off a little bit of what you were talking about, Bishop. So thank you for the spiritual foundation in that scripture. So, Dad, I think you heard a little bit about the prodigal son and about how
Yes,
he was talking about how he wanted his money now, and he wanted to get his inheritance now. So, if you would, can you just speak to a little bit about some of the things that people need to be aware of when they have that type of thinking? So, hopefully, my question makes sense. How do we address those persons who are looking for their now, looking for their inheritance now?
thank you for that opportunity. The word prodigal means wasteful. And one of the things that we have to understand is as you get younger and go through a phase, you feel a sense of entitlement. And you also have people who, when they have children, they kind of try to give them everything that they never had, the person never had. So they're going to do better by their children than their parents did by them. So we find ourselves trying to satisfy children by giving them tangible things. The thing is, when you give tangible things, you have to be careful because there's an expectation of the child that they will continually have this. And if you continually try to give them those things, you will become financially what I call insolvent. So, what we need to understand, particularly people of color, entitlement is something that people are trying to do now in this particular century, in this particular year. They want to go back and give us things that they felt were taken away from us years ago. But what you have to understand is when you receive something, you have to know how to take care of it. And a lot of times when we receive items, we don't know how to take care of it. You give a child a toy at Christmas, he's so happy, he plays with it. Next week, you can't find it. It's broken. It's somewhere where you have to throw it away. And that's somewhat like what we have in terms of our lives. We can't give our children everything and then expect them to be able to be thankful for it. People have to respect what they receive and learn how to maintain that particular item. And that's where management comes in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us can't really manage money without a plan. And a lot of us don't receive that plan or teaching because our parents never really spent the time because they never really understood. managing. And that's why it's so important now, as God blesses us to receive things, let's take time and learn how to keep those things and manage them so we will have them for future generations, and we'll learn to impart to that generation what we went through in order to get what we have now.
Gotcha. Bishop?
Wow, wow. Um, where do I begin? What you said about that parenting piece and the home influences on how we think about money. Um, I guess one of my things I take from the prodigal son's story, or the wasteful son, is that it seems as if money or resources magnified his existing issues in character. The money didn't make his character, it financed it and exposed it. So if he already had those proclivities, so how do we balance as parents money, developing our child's monetary wisdom versus developing their character?
Bishop, you raised a very good question. And one of the key words you said was wisdom. We have to start at an early age with a conversation with our children. And a lot of times, children believe their dad can do anything. Their dad is Superman. Their dad can get me anything. But when dad hears that, naturally there's a pride. But there also needs to be a realism with dad and with the child that at some time, dad won't have what you want. And so you have to understand that we have to, in some instances, save in order to get what you want. There's nothing wrong with just telling your children, I don't have it. I've had to say that a number of times in terms of our family. I don't have it. But I'm speaking for present day. That's not that we're not going to get it later, but right now I don't have it. And explain to them what you have to do in order to get that particular item. So that's wisdom. A lot of times I find our parent does not really have a conversation with the child. The child starts crying, acting up. And so to stop that type of behavior, you go and get what the child is crying for. Or you can kind of get upset, and sometimes, you have to leave the child while he's crying. But what you have to understand is because you can't give it to the child at that time, you're not a failure. The child might say, well, you don't like dad, you don't love me, so and so dad gave him such and such. But what you have to understand is, well, you don't know the circumstances of your friend's parents. And so what you have to do is understand someday that will come and you will be able to get what you want, and I will help you, but you're going to have to do some things yourself.
Yeah, so so Bishop, I, I can speak, of course, because my father taught us how to be able to save money when we didn't want to save money. So I can smile as he's saying some of those things, but I really think about, as I was studying for today's show, I was thinking about the different things that we need to plan for through each decade. And I think this was right in line with what my father was just saying. So, if you look at between age 0 to 10, this is the perfect time where you teach your children about finances. You teach them a little bit about money. Those who are parents, those who are guardians, this is the time now where you start in preparing some type of college plan. There's different in tax advantage. I think one is called the 529 plan. 529 plan. There's a tax advantage college plan where you can begin to save. And so these are things that you do for your children, 0 through 10. And then from 10 through 20, and I'll just stop with that. This is where you're teaching financial education. You're teaching them the difference between spending versus saving. You know, it was a big deal when I finally got an allowance, Bishop. Because I had to be able to explain why I would get the allowance. Now, I spent most of my allowance on candy. I'll be honest with you. I love sour gummy worms until this day, still do. And so I was always saving me a little bit of my allowance for candy. But there was a difference between, spending everything that I got. And so I had to learn how to be able to spend versus save. I also had to learn how to be able to learn how to budget and then cost of living. You might say, well, 10 to 20, you're not paying a lot of utilities, but you have to learn that the clothes, as my father was just explaining, if there was things I wanted, then I had to save up for it. I was blessed to have two parents who knew how to be able to spend money appropriately. Amen. I said blessed. Some of y'all only got one. And so you knew which parent to go to say, okay, I really want this, and so I can go nudge on that one. Well, I didn't have that opportunity. As soon as one said one, the other one just backed the other one up. So I didn't have a chance. But once I started saving some money, I understood what the cost and value was. Like if I wanted a pair of shorts or a pair of jeans or something like that, I would have to put up some of the money for that. And with that, I would appreciate it more. I do remember that very clearly. That if I had bought something with my own money, I did. I made sure I treated it better. And then even during that time of age 10 to 20, you have checking and savings accounts. And so I believe that was the first time where I had my first checking account and did not get any credit cards. And of course, that's a whole discussion in itself, because people find themselves, once they get into the age of 18, 19, 20, opening up credit cards and then utilizing them and not knowing how to manage. That's because they missed out on that financial education. So what am I commenting as I'm bringing my portion of post here is that we're talking about financial education, which is so important in how to be able to live your best life. You start early, believe me, living your best life will come much sooner and much quicker for you.
That's what I'm taking from this conversation, Elder Shepherd. We'll call the senior elder, and you're Dr. Shepherd, because both are very accomplished. And so we'll separate the honorifics that way to identify. But what I'm taking, Elder Shepherd, from this is the importance of being able to intentionally and strategically address that subject of money at home. So I'm actually having some transference here. My father, I remember acting out as a young boy in Penn Station, the train station here in Baltimore, and they were selling something at one of the retail booths. It was a red fire truck, and I wanted it so bad, and I acted out for it, and I acted out because he said he didn't have the money. And then we went and ate lunch, and I saw him take money out, and he paid for it. And that's when it triggered. I acted up and said, "You said you didn't have the money." And he said, and I became a victim of corporal punishment that day in the station. But later on after that, because he was old school. So after that, he did talk to me about, it became a conversation for allocation of money, and I didn't have it for that and this and that. And later on, that became a giving of chores and an allowance, as you just said. And if you want it, work for it and save for it. I didn't appreciate those conversations much. For a long time, I couldn't look at a toy fire truck without having a traumatic, post-traumatic stress disorder moment. But that's what you just brought that up for me in giving a different view on that we appreciate and intentionally engage those conversations with our families. That's what I'm taking. So fix me where I'm broke here.
Well, well, Bishop, one of the things also that I'm finding with people, they have money, but they don't have a plan for its use.
Mm.
You're not always going to have sufficient resources or money to do things that you feel you want to do. You want to do something, and you've already got your planned use of the money, and they don't coincide. So you say, well, what's the most important? People are feeling that now. Do I pay the rent, or do I have food for my children to eat?
Mhm.
Both are important.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is understand, I've got to have a plan. It's not all or nothing, but sometimes I've just got to put this amount in this particular, shall we say, envelope, and I can pay on the rent, and I can pay on the other things that I have to pay, so that people are receiving the information that I understand I've got to pay, but I can't pay it all at this time. So please bear with me, and I can uh, do the things, but it might take me a little longer. There's a phrase that when God speaks to us, he doesn't always say no, but he's saying not yet. You're not ready. And this is coming, but not yet.
Yeah.
And that's the way I interpreted a lot of things, so that I could kind of stick with the understanding that he didn't refuse me. He just said, it's just not your time right now.
Right. Yeah, and that's good. And I actually want to just really just flow right with that. So we were talking about a plan, and so thank you for mentioning that we have to have a plan if we want to again live your best life economically. So if we hear God say it's not yet, so what do we need to do in the meantime? We just can't say, well, not yet. So we just kind of throw up our hands and kind of do what you were talking about earlier, where we start crying and things like that, and throw a fit. What does some of the components of that plan look like, so that when there is a turn from the not yet to yes, so we have to prepare ourselves, which is why we're having this episode today. So just give us some quick components of what that plan will look like.
One of the things in terms of a plan, it comes to you, and at the time when it comes to you, you should take pen and paper, or in this day and time, digitally, go to your computer or your phone or whatever and jot it down. And as you look at it, you look at the item that you're trying to, say, solve or figure out. A plan has steps. It's just likened to what I call a budget. A budget is a financial plan in terms of you have a limited amount of resources. And with the limited amount of resources, you have to utilize that to solve all kinds of financial things that you are going to have come upon you. Now, In that regard, you stick within your budget. You stick within the parameters so that when you see something that's outside of the budget, you have a guidepost. I look at what my budget says and I look at the things that are outside the budget, and I can't do that right now. So, what I say is when you come upon a situation like that, again, jot down that item which you didn't expect to occur. And when you have finished obtaining the items that you budgeted and planned for, if you have something left over, you can now go toward that item that was unexpected. A lot of times I find people, they what we call micromanage their budget. They got a budget, but something comes up. You plan to buy a car, and when you buy the car, you had in mind, well, I'm going to get a Volkswagen. Well, if you're going to get a Volkswagen, you don't need to go to the Cadillac dealership. What you need is stick within your parameter. And you might pass by the Cadillac dealership going to the Volkswagen dealership. You can write down, well, the Cadillac dealership is just down the street, but right now I only have enough money to get this item. Later on, I know where to go to get the other item that I saw.
Wow.
So keep yourself motivated. You have to get what you can afford and keep yourself motivated that you can enlarge your territory as things get better for you.
Elder Shepherd, this is helpful. Identify your parameters and stick with them. Which is easy to say, and I'm interested in, and we get to this. I can tell we might need another session, but when the thing that came to mind is while you're on your way to that Volkswagen dealership, the Cadillac dealership is advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And the psychology of selling is convincing me that I really need the social status affirmation of this Cadillac so that on Sunday morning, go to church post-pandemic, my Cadillac will give me a different social status than my Volkswagen. And I've been marketed to buy into that. So how important is it to have a healthy sense of where we are, to be realistic with our parameters, and to have even a healthy sense of self-esteem about where we are, and knowing that where I am is where I am, but it doesn't have to be where I stay. But right now, this is where I am. That's the psychology of money. So either Shepherd can answer, help us, spirit and mind audience, with that one.
Let me just start it, and Jonathan can pick it up in terms of where I leave off. A lot of times, the marketing that comes to us, commercials, etc., we see ourselves in these particular positions. We see ourselves driving the Cadillac, and we see ourselves there because we're looking to impress people. We're not looking at can we afford it, but we're looking at what people will think of us if they see us driving something new. But the problem comes when we get that something new and we haven't prepared for it. it's just a matter of time before we lose it.
Mhm.
We don't have it. And when people whom you're trying to impress see that you don't have your Cadillac, the question is, what happened to your car? And so you're embarrassed because you've lost it or someone has taken it. And that can be very much uh, a thing in which people feel I should have waited. Now I'm embarrassed, and people will think less of me because I had something and I lost it. So what you have to do is kind of keep yourself on an even keel so that people, when they see you, they have an expectation and you haven't overdone things and therefore lost things because you haven't really followed your plan.
Yeah,
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 I mean, marketing is huge. Absolutely. When you go to the different stores, even as you walk through even the grocery stores, things are marketed in different ways. So you go past a certain brand name, but then if you go to, like, say for instance, a drugstore or like Walgreens or CVS, there's always a CVS or Walgreens brand, and there's always competing against the other competitors' brand. But truthfully, when you go to compare the two, there's nothing that's really that much different between. So we have to be careful of what we are spending our money on and what we're investing it in, because the marketing is there. And believe me, marketing is powerful. It will teach you that I'm supposed to wear a certain clothes, a certain line of clothes. I'm supposed to dress a certain way. I'm supposed to have this. I'm supposed to have that by a certain age in life. And let me tell you, it can definitely weigh on you. Going into the medical field, that was one of the things that I had to really learn and think. I'm thankful for parents who taught me how to be able to see the other side without allowing myself to walk into really immediate self gratification. Because believe me, there were so many of my colleagues and friends who didn't go into medicine. I mean, they were making nice money, and all while I was in my 20s, I was in medical school. I was gathering up debt. Yes, as a resident, I was getting paid, but I was only getting paid maybe a fourth of what a typical doctor would get. So we those who were in medicine, we had to learn self discipline. Well, we just had to learn discipline and learn how to kind of put self under control, not to buy into the whole self gratification, because if we had not, uh, we would literally been spending money that we did not have. But now, because I waited, I've now have caught up in many aspects. I've surpassed even those people who were left. I mean, who had left me behind back in my 20s, because I learned how to wait, and that's one of the major things that comes with living your best life. And in this particular area with economics, that we have to learn discipline. We have to learn how to be able to wait, how to be able to say not yet. We have to learn how to be able to say, man, that looks real shiny. Oh, I love that Cadillac. But let me tell you, when you're able to buy that Cadillac, not have to worry about the debt that goes along with it. Oh, it rides so much better. Oh, you feel so much, it's so much smoother. Because again, I go back to even the decades, as I was talking about earlier. I went through the first 2 decades. You have to look at your 30s and 40s. This is the time where you are gathering up your education. You're spending money on your educational opportunities because you're allowing yourself to hopefully be able to make or increase your earning potential. And so when you're in the process of doing increasing your earning potential, you're going to have to spend money, and you're going to have to sometimes go into debt unless your parents have already provided for you. I had to pay for medical school. I'm still going through it now, but yet God has blessed me because even as I have been faithful to God, and not braggadocious here, but I've been consistent with God. God has continued to bless me over and over again, so that now I'm able to hopefully be able to eradicate all medical school debt within hopefully the next less than 2 years. That is just remarkable because, again, I had to have a plan. I had to learn discipline. I had to learn that, yes, in my earlier years, that it was going to take some energy and time. I was going to have to go into debt. But in doing so, now I'm able to live much better and live with less stress. And I know we'll talk about that some more. So, Bishop, I hope that helps you out.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope it's helping our viewership, our Spirit and Mind family. In fact, I just feel led of the Lord to speak to persons who for whom the things that we're talking about may seem so unachievable or insurmountable. I hope that you're hearing the work ethic, because by the time we met, you were already Dr. Jonathan Shepherd.
Yeah.
I was already Bishop Guy Robinson, and we both done the school pieces and have the things on the wall. But it's so helpful to hear the stories of your internship and
Yeah.
of your saving and of the steps that had to be taken to get there, because so many people see the latter chapters but don't know the stories. I'm from an area in Baltimore that most people would consider the hood. That's where I grew up. But wherever you start, what I'm hearing from you is have a plan for the next level, whatever that next level is. And that's the hope piece. That's the spiritual piece. If you can see yourself. And as Elder Shepherd was talking, I was thinking about Habakkuk too. When Habakkuk said, I'm going to stand on the wall and see what the Lord shows me. That's the vision piece. And then I heard Elder Shepherd say, write down your plan. That's Habakkuk. It says, I see it. Now let me write it down. This is where I want to be in the next 6 months, whatever it is. If it's, I want to have my GED in the next 6 months, because I don't want to make any assumptions or have any language of assumed privilege. So getting my GED is the next level. Whatever it is, getting to the next place from being the cook to being the cashier. Whatever it is, have a next level in mind. Stand on the wall, which means spend some time with the Lord concerning my purpose and destiny. And where do you want me to go from here? Then secondly, write your plan down. Habakkuk, write the vision, make it plain. This is my next step. And then that's what I heard from Elder Shepherd. And then Dr. Shepherd, I heard you say, talking about the importance of waiting. Habakkuk, for the vision is for an appointed time, which means the Cadillac may come, to stay with Elder Shepherd's wonderful analogy, but it's just not for this season. If I get it in this season, then I'll be responsible for maintaining it, and it'll probably be repossessed.
Right.
But if I wait on the Lord and the Lord says now, then it changes my prayer life. I can put God in remembrance of his word when financial challenges come. I can get the I got a different support system when I am in the timing and the planning of God. And so that's just what is blessing me from what you're sharing today. Please feel free to add, or frame that as inspiring.
Yeah,
One
let say a couple of things.
one of the things that is important is also keep yourself where you don't get disillusioned. It's very important to, while you're waiting, don't think things are going the wrong way. Keep your involvement, say in your church or in your job. Make sure you stay encouraged and not disillusioned, because it seems to be taking more time than you thought. It's so important that you surround yourself with people who encourage you this way and don't put you down, who well, you know, you could have done this, you could have done that. When you have people like that, those are people that are not really looking out for your best interests. And what you have to do is say, you look at their situation, and then as you look at that, you see why they're not encouraging, but they are basically trying to put you down because it looks like you've got yourself in a state where you're satisfied and you're going to go forward. And a lot of times now, we have to seek those people that encourage us, that build us up, that give us esteem. It's amazing how people, when they see you're being blessed financially, they want to know how you're doing. How are you staying encouraged like this? So it's very important that you feel free to just let them know, well, it's not me, but God has helped me and has given me these particular attributes. And that's what I'm following. And if you try that, you can be also encouraged too.
Yeah, so I'll just and thankful I allowed my father to go first there because Minister Cat, I'm not sure if this was in the chat, but she just sent this to me. And she said, "Don't go broke trying to impress those who are broken," and that is so true. Don't try going, don't try going broke, or don't go broke trying to impress those who are broken. And that's what my father was just saying. That when you are around people who are asking you, well, how come you're doing so well economically, or why are you living your best life economically? A lot of that has to do with jealousy, and so you want to just make sure that you are not surrounding yourself with people who will pull you down. And we've talked about this. We even talked about it in the social piece, and it really applies here even economically. I'm going to pivot here just a little bit too, because I think this is a perfect place to state it. So I've had some wonderful testimonies come, personal testimonies for this past year. So and this hopefully will encourage somebody because I can even hear that unfortunately with my device today. So Bishop, you got to let me know how the comments are coming out today. Because I know when you start talking about money and economics, people kind of get quiet. They kind of get quiet on you. So I'm not sure. I can't see on my iPad today, but I hope you all are not quiet today. Because if you all are quiet, we got to wake you back up because this is the type of stuff that's going to alleviate so much of your mental health issues. But let me just say very quickly here with a testimony. So year 2020, um, I just like many other people, I had to suffer a pay cut, and I had to suffer a pay cut for 5 consecutive months. And some people will say, "Well, you're a physician, so it don't affect you." I mean, I will look at those folks and be like, "Okay, yep, you're going to be cut from the friends list because you don't know what my bills are, how that money is earmarked. But you have a plan in place, and now you're saying that you're going to be cut, and your salary is cut for 5 months straight. That hurts. It does make a difference. But let me tell you, here's the first testimony: is that God, even in the midst of the pandemic, in that year 2020, He allowed me to earn more money that year 2020, that I've ever earned in my life. Now that doesn't make sense to me, but it's because I had a plan. I was beginning to save money, and I'm thankful for my dad. I'm thankful for even other people who have advised me in the past, and I had money in reserve. So when the pandemic struck, I was okay. I was like, okay, well, I have this money I can go back to. We have to be able to save money. I know I'm at my wits' end. I don't know what, even if you save $1 a day, just learning and getting to that concept, it really is a mindset that you have to. Here's another quick testimony. Just yesterday, less than 24 hours, I went to the bank. I refinanced the mortgage. Well, I had the mortgage on my house refinanced. And so I had to go and close one of those accounts. And when I went to close the account, I said, well, I think such and such money is in there. They said, oh, no, Dr. Shepard, 5 times more of that money in there. I said, I said, are you sure? They said, yeah. And so didn't come to find out that the money that I thought I had to pay for my mortgage in February on the old mortgage, they didn't need it. And so the money was still there. What am I saying? That you are faithful to God, when you're consistent to God, you'll go back and find out that the money that you were planning on spending and had actually even spent, because you were faithful and consistent with it, God knows how to be able to sometimes keep that money right there when you didn't even expect it. And you go back and find out that it has blossomed. So you know what I did with that money? I didn't just put it back into my own account. I put it into the other account at that same bank where I am storing up money for scholarships and for missions work. Again, that's how you get blessed. You know, somebody says, "Well, Shepherd, why would you have done that? You should put it back into your own personal account." No, I already given it from my personal account. I wasn't expecting to get it back. So invest it. Invest that money. Now you may say, all I got is $300. Go invest it. Go save it. Go put it somewhere. Don't touch it. Too many times we touch money that we have already earmarked. Learn how to be disciplined enough that when that money has been set aside for that, leave it there. I hope you all are hearing me on that. Because when you do so, God will honor that. God will bless it. And He knows how to increase it better than you and I even know how.
You raised some powerful things, Dr. Shepherd. And again, please tell somebody. I'm pretty sure this is going to need next week, but we'll talk about it later. But you raised, going back to the text, there's something that happens in that text. The prodigal son experiences an unexpected natural disaster. That is a famine. He didn't see it coming. And so he didn't prepare for it. And it's reminiscent of Joseph's advice to Pharaoh to save because their famine was coming. And so it raises two questions that we probably will close out with today. Is there a standard for persons in terms of a set goal of, like, whether it's 5% of your income, 10% of your income? And then secondly, does that behavior or our mindset change about money in a famine, in a natural disaster? How does that affect how we spend, or how does it make us anxious? And first, is there a standard amount, 6 months, living expenses, whatever? And then does that get modified in our behavior in a famine?
It's interesting you ask, because most financial planners advise you to have anywhere between 3 to 6 months of your salary in place in case something unexpected happens. You get laid off or some type of emergency happen. The higher in terms of the 3 to 6 month period, the better. If you can do 3 months to get started, that's fine. But 6 months is a standard that they ask you to try to achieve, so that when you do have something occur, you're not all frustrated and don't know what to do, and talking to people about, I just got laid off and everything seems to be coming down on me. You've got some time to kind of think through what I can do, because I didn't spend everything. I kept something in reserve. And while you're dealing with that in reserve, you are looking at things that you need to change so that you'll be able to get in a situation better than what you had.
Wow. Spirit and mind, hopefully this has been helpful to you. Stuff we need to cover that's just on my mind is, and we'll certainly consider this for our next presentation of Living Your Best Life. This is what we should do. Should have this amount This is what we should save. This is what we should spend. This is how we should budget. But there's a lot of research that is out now that deals with the psychology of money, which is making the distinction between why is it that after I've intellectually given assent to what we should do, why do I do something different? Like Paul said, when I would do. And so that has a lot to deal with, and we still need to deal with systemic forces that are convincing and appealing to our esteem or lack of. And then there is superfluous language that is used in commercials that gets and encourages. You don't really hear a lot of high publicized things about saving money with a lot of flash. It's usually commercialized spending incentives. And so that's all a psychological piece. The institutions that have marketing psychologists that devote their entire time to noticing trends and how to improve the probability of us spending money. And so we're dealing with, if you will, if I can use church language, forces and maybe even wickedness in high places as it concerns the strategy to be prepared. So I would like to talk about the theology of money and the difference between a debt and an investment. Even in kingdom language, when we're investing in the kingdom and God giving seed to the sower. So there's so many other contexts, emotional versus rational spending. I hear all of that in this dialogue that we've just begun to scratch the surface of, in my estimation today. Dr. Shepherd, wrap us up, because I know we want to be sensitive to our time, but please wrap us up a little bit, if you would.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you, Bishop Robinson. And you just opened Pandora's box. My father ready like to pounce on some of that. So, but again, we have gone to our limit, our time limit today. I want to thank my father, the Elder Josephus Shepherd, who has been a stalwart and a force to reckon with throughout the country when it comes to finances. And so, thank you, Dad, for coming to join us on this show today. And please let those folks out there know we will continue to deal with this subject. A lot of people talk about prosperity gospel and things like that. We didn't even mention that. But let me tell you, the best way to be able to prosper and live and be in good health is to do it God's way. To make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And when I say take care of yourself, you take care of God first. Make sure you tithe. Make sure you're giving of your first fruits. And then you live off 90% of the rest. And so with that said, I don't want to further the conversation anymore today. This has been awesome. This has been good. Please, we want you to get your neighbors, those within your networks, your friends, your associates on this Spirit in Mind vidflex.tv. Share with them this episode. So many people are preparing for their IRS, their Internal Revenue Service tax returns. This is the perfect time. So this is falling right in line. God gave us this particular series, and He would know that He already knew that this would be the time and season where we would deal with this particular topic. And so this is not something to be afraid of. So many people are scared. But we're not scared. We're not scared. We're going to attack it. We're going to come straight down your street, as I say, and we're going to deal with these issues, because when you face it with faith instead of fear, God will honor that. And so with that said, thank you again, Dad. I don't have anything else. I think we're good for today.
Yes, thank you, Elder Shepherd. And that's why we put it that way. I admit this is an ongoing series. And so the cliffhangers and the Pandora's box was intentional, because we know we didn't exhaust the subject and there is still much more to talk about. And so we want you to join us. Please tell somebody. We're talking about next week. We'll focus specifically on that, the psychology of money. As we seek to live our best lives economically. Thank you for joining us on Spirit in Mind.